Dear ones, this is the last day of this week-long webinar. All these days I was supposed to give the initial discourse after chanting the prayer, but because of my ill health, I couldn't manage it. At least I'm trying to do so in this last day. A few days ago, some friends in London were interviewing me as part of the documentary film they are preparing. I expected them to ask the question, what is your philosophy? But they didn't ask, so I didn't have to answer. I think at least I will ask the question and answer it myself. What is my philosophy? I don't have any philosophy of my own. Neither did Narayana Guru had, nor Nadaraj Guru had, nor Guru Nitya Chaitanya Yati. Not only all these gurus, but all the gurus of India had no philosophy of their own. Then what they were doing? They were having one source philosophical vision that they call Sruti Pramana. The philosophical vision recorded in the words of the Shrutis or the Upanishads. There is much difference in this matter from the philosophies of the West. In the West, philosophical thinking is progressing, and their philosophical problem is not yet fully solved. New theories, new isms, and new ideas about the reality, ultimate reality, is developed by thinkers, but they never come to a final conclusion. Their philosophical inquiry for the ultimate truth is going on in a straight line. Recently, I read in a book that when a great philosopher of the present world was asked how far this philosophical inquiry will go on, his immediate answer was, let this not stop. Let this philosophical inquiry not stop, but let it go on. Why? Because once the ultimate reality they are in search of is found out, then there is no need of any philosophical inquiry. Then there is no any need of philosophical research, and there is no need of any agencies funding uh, for this kind of effort. All the present day philosophers, researchers on philosophy, they depend on the funds provided by funding agencies. Once the reality is finally found out, there is no need of funding for any further research. So that day, these philosophers, these professors of the university, they will lose their job. So if the philosophical research continues, they will be having their job forever. So that is why they are praying, let this not end, let us not find out the ultimate reality. In India, the case is much different. The ultimate reality was found out, realized by some ancient rishis. And they recorded it, they recorded their vision in the Shrutis. And that is the source of all the philosophical inquiry, even philosophical schools in India. What they are doing is what all the philosophical, even the philosophical schools in India are doing is interpreting the visions of the rishis recorded in the Shrutis. One philosopher's interpretation may be somewhat different from another's interpretation. That means the broadness of the inquiry, of the broadness of the vision increases as philosophers come and interpret the teachings of the Shrutis in their own way. Thus, it is, in one sense, we can say, the vision of the rishis is at the central point, and the interpreters, the later interpreters, including the present day interpreters like Tambi Swami and Narayana Guru, they are all widening or enlarging the area of enlarging the circle around the central point. As one philosopher comes and puts his interpretation, the area increases. The area of the circle increases. Like that, more and more circles are being drawn around the central point, the vision of the Rishi, and that is what going on in India. That means the basic vision they are interpreting is not at all changed. It remains the same. What they try to do is only to make clear what the original vision of the Rishi was. Thus, it is in India, in the philosophical world, what is going on is enlarging the circle around the central teaching given in the Shrutis, in the Shruti Pramana. They do not go on on a straight line forward, but they remain at the same point and they make the interpretation around the one point. They widen the circle around the possible interpretations around the one point of one vision that is given in the Shrutis. So it should be in this light that we should look at the controversy that is going on in Kerala about who was great, Chattambi Swami or Narayana Guru. They were two rishis, contemporary rishis, having their own spiritual paths. Chattambi Swami was very much research oriented in his thinking. Narayana Guru was like a mystic who was thinking of the mystical reality in which the world of physics and the world of metaphysics meet to make it more scientific. In that respect, it is subtler than the work done by Chattambi Swami. So both of them did their best in broadening the area of understanding about the one central core reality revealed in the Upanishads, in the Shrutis. Narayana Guru himself says, Upanishadukti Rahasyam Orthirenam. That means, remember that this is the teaching, the central, this is the secret teaching contained in the Upanishads or the Shrutis. So if you have a vision of the difference between the progress of the Western philosophy in a straight line and India, the Indian philosophy, the progress is not through a straight, is not forward in a straight line, but it is standing at one point and largening their circle of thinking more and more as time passes on. More and more rishis come forward and reveal what they saw in the Shruti Pramana and thus make it more rich. That is the difference between the mystical teachings of the mystical philosophy of the East and the philosophical inquiry based more on logic that is going on in the West. So it is in this context I also see what am I doing in this field? What I tried my best is to simplify what was stated in the great commentators, acharyas, and in the Upanishads and the works of Narayana Guru. To try to make it very, very simple. How is it? We are sure that we are all living in this world. We are part of it. We are born as part of this world. We are living as part of this world. We will be dying as part of the functional system, existence of the world. We can never have an existence apart from the world's existence. That means what we and the world together form one reality. That means the real substance in my being and the real substance in the being of this world are not two. So if you want to know what is the ultimate reality that assumed the form of this world, instead of trying to find out that reality as if it is something outside there, let me find out the real content in me. Why? Because I am an integral part of this world. And if I realize what is the real content in me, that will be the real content in the world also. For knowing the ultimate reality, I don't have to go anywhere. I have to go only to myself. Narayana Guru says, Kandakal Anjum Ulladaki, Teridara Vinu Vanangi Odire. Interiorize your all the sense organs and then find out what is that, what the reality is within me with a kind of sense of adoration for the same reality. Once I realize what is in my being, that means I realize the being of the world also. The being of the entire world is named, or the substance in the being of the entire world is named Brahman in the Upanishads, in the Sruti Pramana. And the real content in me, in every individual being, is named Atma in the very same Sruti Pramanas. So, if you know what is Atma, that means you know Brahman. The Shveda Upanishad says, Yad Atma Tattvena tu Brahma Tattvam. It is through knowing the self reality, that means the individual being's reality, that you have to realize what Brahman is. So that is the simplest way of understanding or understanding the teachings of the Upanishads. You know what is the ultimate reality that is taught in the Upanishads. It is contained in the Mahavakya Tattvamasi. Not only one Mahavakya, in all the 4 Mahavakyas. Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Atma Brahma, Prajnanam Brahma. In all these Mahavakyas, what do we say is, on the one side, there is the individuated being. On the other side is the universal being. How are these two related? These are not two realities. It is only two ways in which each of us perceive the very same reality. When I perceive the reality by looking at an individual being, that is one kind of, that is the individual, the perception from the individual being. The other is universal. On the individual side, it is Atman. On the universal side, it is Brahman. That means what we call Brahman and Atman are two different facets of one and the same reality, which is that one reality that is what is beyond words. Either we can call it Atma from the individual side or Brahman from the universal side, but the neutral reality of which these two are two different facets. That neutral reality, that is beyond words. Every equation, Atma is, Brahman is an equation. You know, every equation has two limbs. The simplest equation in algebra is a squared plus 2a plus b the whole squared is equal to a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. These two are two limbs written on the blackboard by a teacher with an equation mark in between. But these are two different words, two different limbs. One, what is seen on the one side is much different from what is seen on the other side. How are they related? They mean one and the same reality. What is that one reality that is written with the help of these two limbs? Unless we write these two limbs with an equation mark between these two, we will not be understanding the equalness of these two limbs. So it is not either of the sense of either of the limbs that we understand from the equation, but it is what is understood, or what is understood in the equation is not written there. It is hidden in between these two, and it is marked by the equation mark we put there. So here what we understand from this equation is what is actually written there, but it is something not written there. What is written there are two limbs. And what we understand from the equation is not the meaning of either of the limbs, but is the equalness of these two limbs, which is not written there. So that means a simple equation like this has something mystical in it. What is written there is not what is understood by the equation. What is then the role of these two limbs? Without these two limbs, you will not be able to understand the equalness of the oneness of these two limbs. In the same way, in the equation, I am Brahman. Aham Brahma Asmi. Aham is one limb, Brahman is the next limb. This is that. Tattvam. In all these equations, there are two limbs. What we understand from the oneness of these two limbs is not written there. It is something not written there. That means the unwritten equalness of these two limbs is what we understand. The unwritten equalness of the individual being and the universal being, the oneness of these two, what is that oneness? You have to intuitively perceive in your mind. Such is the way the Mahavakyas are meaningful. In the same way, we have to, the same thing we have to see in every equation. The highest of such kind of equations is the Mahavakyas, four Mahavakyas. That means here how the Mahavakyas, the core teaching of Vedanta contained in the Upanishads, it is very easy to understand. Which is the way I tried my best to simplify the teachings in our Shruti Pramanas, and if there is any contribution to philosophy from my side, it will be this kind of simplification of the core teaching of Vedanta.